So I'm splicing these pieces of box tubing together, the square tube, and I'm fish plating essentially. I'm internally fish plating, which isn't something you're going to see very often, but I'm a belt and suspenders kind of guy. So what I'm going to be doing is internally fish plating this, full pen welding this, and then I'm going to possibly be fish plating this on the outside as well. You could also do some sleeving as a good tactic to use, but this is some beam for an upcoming project that I'm working on for my cement mixer trailer. I'll get into that in a more in-detail video in the future. You can see I got some prep work done here, got all the beveling taken care of, and got a little bit of landing in there. You can see my plugs here. I'm going to break this down for you on the other end where I have this second beam at this point in the procedure. So what I've done is I've taken some flat bar and I've welded that on the inside, and then once I butt my next beam up to this, obviously I can't get in there all the way down from the end of the beam to weld the other side. So that's why I drill some holes in this section here, and then when I butt these two up together, you'll see I'm able to plug weld these from the outside, and that's going to give me what it's going to do. Really, it's not going to give me a ton of strength. It is going to add a bit of strength to this, but what it's for mostly for me is if you get any sort of noticeable, it'll give me more time between there being a noticeable crack appearing and when you get full separation. So at some point, you know, you're going to want to pay attention to this. If you sell this to somebody, you're going to want to mention it to him. You know, if you're a nice guy, let them know this is an area you're going to want to pay attention to. Be perfectly honest, realistically, this is so overkill. This will be the last point this beam ever fails. But nevertheless, it's still just, especially with the weights we're dealing with here, if this is getting towed down the highway, it's just to be on the safe side. You know, doing yourself and everyone around you a favor. I'm welding this with, I'm doing my roots here with a 6011. And then I'm going to be capping it with my 7024. I'm really loving this 7024. This is a new rod that I'm currently using. These are large, quite large rods. I don't think they make them in too terribly small sizes. 6011 is very small. 6011 is notably a root rod, typically used for roots. I'm using these rods is because this is what I have. I have some 7018s. I usually only typically use my 7018s for vertical welds, if I'm welding vertical up, or if I'm doing any overhead. You can use these 7024s. 70s are tensile strength, 2 is your position, and then 4 is some material stuff. So 2 is good for flat and horizontal. So we have some good long flat welds here. This is a high deposit for that. This rod is so amazing to use. This is my favorite rod to use. It's so forgivable. It's so fast. It likes my small, I got a pretty small, pretty old welder, AC welder. It just loves to weld. And this weld, from what I've ground on it as well, it seems extremely hard. You know, it's got a 70 tensile strength, so it shouldn't be any harder or, you know, softer than any other 70 series, but it seems to be the case. So I'll just show you a little bit more of my prep work here. You know, not the best beveling, not the greatest landings, but I'm using my 30-year-old Black & Decker, it's probably 40 years old, Black & Decker 6-inch with 1/4-inch grinding stone. So, you know, you get what you pay for. Otherwise, I'd probably use a flapper disc. You're gonna get a lot more, or sorry, a fiber disc or a flapper wheel. Probably fiber disc, you're gonna get a lot better work out of that. And then once I get this all together, probably just get into truing this stuff in another video. Okay, so that turned out absolutely perfect. I had one little mishap that I do a little bit of a correction on, and you can see here I ran a few extra stringers because I needed to sink a little bit of heat into this side, and it's been cooling for about the last 15-20 minutes. It'll probably pull a little bit more yet. I had a bit of a fitment issue on this side. Everything else is absolutely deadly. This beam turned out perfect. first try. Great fitment, great weld sequence. If you need to learn all about weld sequencing, that'll get your projects as true as possible. And like I said, I didn't have a proper fitment on this. When I cut it, there was a bit of a gap in here, which I just decided to fill with that 6011. That 6011 is great for keyholing and for filling. I also burnt into my my fish plate on the inside here as well. When I got to the middle, I widened it out a little bit with the grinder, or you can just shove that 6011 in there, burn right into that plate as well. So that plate's in there really solid. And like I say, you can fill gaps with that 6011 too, but filling that gap caused it to pull a little bit harder than I had expected. And I had a pretty good banana in here, so I ran a few stringers, which you typically would do with a a cutting torch or a rosebud, and you put some heat into this side, causing the tension on this side to pull. And banana, which would have straightened it, I had to run a few stringers with my 70-24, which is great. It sunk that heat into it quick, and everything's just deadly now. So that's pretty much it. And as soon as I get these banged up into a proper looking chassis, I'll do an update video for you.